Hello, and welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. This is the last in our What Not to Do series, which has been super fun. I hope it's been helpful. I think it's always helpful to know what you shouldn't do. It's even more helpful to know what you should do, which is why I usually make those kinds of videos. But this has been really fun, and I think it's insightful to see things that you think you might be doing correctly, but then once I explain it, you realize, oh, it could be better. There's always opportunity for improvement. And if you view your warm-ups as always having opportunity to be better and to improve, then that's what will help you become a better player overall in the long run. So that's what's really important, is to just always be improving, always be searching for the opportunity to make things better and better and better. And before you know it, you'll be really, really good. So for today, we're going to do the articulation and talk about the things that can go wrong when you're doing an articulation warm-up. So I'm going to just demonstrate the usual scale articulation, just tonguing like 4 notes on the few notes of the C major scale. And I want you to pay attention and try to guess what you think might be wrong. Feel free to comment anything that you notice as a mistake, and then we'll talk about the opportunities to make this better. So let me go ahead and demonstrate. So hopefully your articulation warm-ups don't sound quite that bad, but when you put all of the mistakes together, it kind of gets that way. So let me talk about the things that went wrong that could be made a ton better. So the first big one is just going too fast. So many people do articulation exercises and think it's all about speed, because why else would you practice tonguing repeated notes unless you're trying to get your tongue faster and go as fast as you can? And yes, it's great to do exercises where you work on fast articulation and work on speeding up your tonguing, but the majority of articulation exercises should be more focused on quality over speed. So the first thing to do would just be to slow down a whole bunch. The other thing that happened at the beginning is I just went straight into it. I highly encourage starting with a long note so that you can get your sound going and sound really good first, and then work to keep that sound going and keep the quality of sound as you start touching your tongue to the reed and actually articulating. It's so easy for things to get weird and the sound quality to diminish once your tongue starts moving, because when the tongue moves, the embouchure wants to move, the air wants to change. When you hear that there's no sound going, the air automatically wants to stop. And all of those things contribute to bad articulation. So it's really, really important to keep the air going, keep the sound going, and establish that sound with sort of a long note before you jump into tonguing right away. The other thing that was a big issue was the consistency, and the consistency in the note shapes. This is an articulation exercise, so the point is to get good articulation. So if you're doing a variety of different articulations, then it's hard to know if it's good or not. There were some notes that were more legato, some notes that were more staccato, and you want to make sure that they're consistent. If you want it to all be legato, then you need to make sure they're all legato. If you want them to be all staccato, that's fine, but you have to make sure that they're all staccato. When you have a mishmash, it's sort of negates the purpose, because you don't know what you're going for and you don't know if you're doing it right. If you're trying to be legato but some notes are staccato, then you know that there's a consistency issue. But if you don't have a game plan for what you want, then who knows? Maybe it was just shorter because it felt like being shorter. Maybe it was longer because whatever reason. But if you don't know what you're trying to get, then whatever you get doesn't matter. And that's a really big moral to all warm-ups, is you need to know exactly what you want to sound like so that you can know if you're getting it or not getting it, and then figure out how to get the sound that you actually want. So defining it would be another big mistake that I made, because I wasn't consistent, because I didn't know what I was going for. Along the same lines of that consistency, another big mistake was the tone quality overall suffered. Some notes sounded worse than other notes. They weren't consistent and even. It didn't have that same kind of long tone feel. If I was playing good long tones on the scale and working to get every note consistent through the duration of the note, consistent to all of the notes around it, and really matching. And I would not have done that on this version of that exercise. I needed to work harder to keep the sound consistent and not let the tonguing affect the quality of the sound, which it certainly did. Some notes were very uneven, and it's so easy to be focusing on the tongue motion and just forget about that quality of sound. But if the quality of sound isn't there, then the articulation, no matter how good your tongue motion is, doesn't matter because you're articulating bad sounding notes, right? So those are the big ones. Definitely, if you noticed any other mistakes that I made or opportunities for improvement, be sure to leave those in the comments. One great one that I didn't mention last week on the technique mistakes warm-up was not using a metronome. And that's absolutely brilliant. I think technique exercises should always be done with a metronome. Articulation exercises are also a great idea to do with a metronome. I use my phone as a metronome, and it's doing the stream, so I can't do a metronome on the video. And also it gets a little weird to have like the clicking going over the video, but definitely do this and technique with a metronome. Long tones definitely don't do with a metronome, because those ones you don't have to worry about the rhythm because you're 100% focused on the sound quality. All right, so let me go ahead and demonstrate how to do an articulation exercise. Well, now I'm going to do exactly the same exercise, and hopefully you can see the difference between how I'm about to do it versus how I initially did it. And it's not just that the quality now is better, but it's that the way that I'm about to do it is going to make me a better player, because I'm learning to actually control the instrument and get the sounds I want out of the instrument and the articulation I want. That's what these warm-ups are all about, is getting the instrument to do what you want. When in the warm-ups, you get your sound quality, your fingers, and your tongue to be exactly how you want, and then you can make that happen on every single piece that you play. So let me go ahead and demonstrate a good articulation exercise. Even that first note has to start great. So you see how in that version, I was really listening to what I was doing and making adjustments as needed. There were some things that I didn't like how they sounded, so I stopped and I fixed it and I changed it. I experimented on that high C as I was coming down. There were some times, like some starts that were okay, but I experimented with a range. I tried like a much lighter start, a harder start, and sort of found that sweet spot of a really good start that I wanted. And that's the whole point. I think if I could summarize all of these like what not to do videos, it would just be to make sure that you're listening. That's the real secret to getting a lot out of your warm-ups, is first of all, have a great idea of what you want to sound like and what it would sound like if a professional was doing these exercises. If these exercises were done 100% perfect, what would that sound like? And then just listen to yourself and see where you're not getting that. Stop, experiment, try some things different, mess around with it, and work at it to get it to go exactly how you want. And most of the time, that's not going to be by going fast by any means. You're going to have to go slow so that you can really break things down, and then work on always being really consistent. So I hope this little series of what not to do, the mistakes in the 3-step warm-up, have been helpful. Comment below any of the mistakes that you've been making that you are going to adjust and fix. And I hope that you can find all of the opportunities for improvement to get the most out of these exercises in your warm-up and your practice. One quick little thing here too for all of my regular viewers who watch every week. Next Monday is Memorial Day, so I'm going to take that day off. I'm also not going to have a normal video this Saturday just because this week is super busy. I'm doing a presentation with my reed quintet and I have a concert with the Nebula Ensemble, so I'm very busy this week, so I don't have time to record a video, but it's exciting to be busy again and be making music again. So thanks for watching this live weekly warm-up. I will see you in 2 weeks on the next live weekly warm-up, and I hope that this is helpful in your practicing.